If I look over the years, I did make a very conscious choice. I made a choice to go super, super deep in the relationships that I have, stay small enough, long enough, knowing that I would get big enough soon enough.
Welcome to the Masters of Business podcast with Daniel Beer.
Boy, do I have a treat for you guys today. This is my personal business coach, somebody that has impacted thousands of lives, somebody who's built an 8-figure coaching business and who is now undisputedly just one of the best marketers, business builders, but it goes so much beyond that. You're going to see, we're going to touch on so much. It's going to affect your business, but here's the promise on this episode that I can't always say on everyone. It's going to affect your life. And so with that, I welcome you, Jon Cheplak, to the podcast. We're excited to have you here on Masters of Business, man. And just jumping into it, your journey is really, it's unique. It's an interesting journey. What led to you going from where you've been, where you've started, to eventually just dedicating your entire life to helping other business owners grow their business, but as a result, turn into such a beautiful business for you? And I love when those things happen simultaneously. I think a lot of our listeners would like the same thing. So how'd you end up there?
Well, and I think it hits home for you and maybe the few that know, but us being close friends for many years. It really actually happened when I was a real estate agent, and I saw people struggling as real estate agents. I had no desire to be a manager or a leader or anything, and my business was going well, and I saw the failure rate, which we see, and I think empathy really moved me here because I went through with, Lexi, my daughter's health situations, the time I needed to take away, the money that it costs us in medical bills, and just sitting there and hearing the challenges that other people had in life, outside of the business, and as they were struggling to make money, right there and then at that point in time, while making a very good living, I decided I wanted to help people out and more than just sell houses. And so that was really early on in my career. And from that point forward, it just continued to move in that direction. That was really my mission, was to, and you've heard me say it a million times, serve, lead, inspire people that want to have a positive life experience as a result of the real estate business. And here I am today.
I think a lot of that spirit though, Jon, a lot of people want to help people, but a lot of people are waiting to help people until they feel like they have enough. And so how did you make that transition? Because I mean, I know your story pretty well, and I'd love for you to illuminate that for our listeners, where it's how did you give yourself permission when you were still in your own struggle? And by the way, when's that struggle going to end? I don't know. For me, probably the day I drop dead. For you, maybe the same, right? But so many people wait until they have the result before being able to give. I know you have thoughts around that.
I really do. One of my mentors taught me, and it was a mentor in my personal life development, because I had my series of misadventures in life, addiction for 20 years, in and out of it. But the one thing he pointed out to me when I was at the very lowest point in my life, and I'd heard it for years from people, was that the number one way to get out of a challenge, a struggle, or a frustration that you're in your life is to go help someone. And when you talk to someone who's at their absolute bottom, and it sounds like the most ridiculous thing, and it pointed out to me, someone's always got it worse. And so maybe a little bit extreme in this dynamic, but here's the thing. I was new to a marketplace. I was new to the Las Vegas marketplace, had a track record back in Washington State, but I was out there kicking and biting and scratching. And, what I would look for is every one of us has a superpower. Every one of us has a special skill set. Every one of us, there's someone that's on the come up, no matter what level you're at, that's struggling. And so, not from a standpoint of pray and be opportunistic with it, it's more of a standpoint of looking at who can I help? Because what happens is that in the unconscious brain, and I didn't realize this till I started doing it, was when you start helping people, the teacher learns it twice. And when you start helping people, you've got to perform at a really, really high level. So I think the big thing to look at is I don't care where you're at in your life or in your business, there's always someone that isn't quite far along as you are. And maybe it's one person, maybe it's 3 people, maybe it's 50 people. I don't know what it is, but seize the moment to contribute to them because the number one pathway to keeping anything that you have and growing what you have is by giving it away to other people.
Really good. It's something that I've watched you just personally do, and what I've seen happen just in the short few years that I've been alongside you is I met you as a real estate coach.
Yeah.
Really, what I didn't know at the time is you were also a consultant and coach for people in other industries in the food space and in the wellness space. But in any case, today you have a digital business, you have a mortgage business, you have the Reside platform, which is basically an operational support structure for agents to help them run their business in an easier way, make them move faster. And all of it really centered around your brand.
Mhm.
So let me just hit you with this one here. What is a brand? Because you've built one. I'm not sure that most people really understand what brand truly is. Uh,
Yeah, I think here's what I would say: a brand is built on principles. Principles are constant, and in my best way to look at principles in a brand, if I were to define it, is who you are, what you do, and who you are, what you do, and what you stand for, and it's consistent and you're unwavering. The other piece, where in its simplest term, what I would say is that the experience that people have of me and my community when they interact with me or with inside the community. And for me, it's the principles and the experience that people have is really what a brand is. But the most important thing is being unwavering and not darting off and trying the latest next thing. That's why I think a lot of people don't really truly build a brand. My most uneducated definition, that's what I have as far as a brand's concerned.
Well, what I hear you saying, like reading between the lines there a little bit, is there's what people say their brand is, but you really, in your answer, focused on what you're demonstrating on a day-to-day basis in terms of what you actually do, the way you show up, and that the brand is essentially the real you, not the person you say you are, but in fact, the thing. I mean, does that resonate with you at all, John?
Yeah, big time. It is because, a lot of times people will say, and this is just feedback I get, what's the one thing that comes to mind when people think of, consistent is a word that people will hear. And consistency is something that people want. People want, I think I've got a brand that's with being, being true to self. I think I have a brand that's being, some can call it polarizing, but today in today's world, the truth is what's polarizing. I think it's a brand that gives people freedom to be themselves, but it also is a brand that talks to simplicity and focus is the best way that I could describe what it is, and I think what it says to the marketplace today. I think also too, what's really important though, as I'm just kind of unpacking this here, is who you surround yourself with. People like yourself and your peers. That is, if I look over the years, I did make a very conscious choice in, a lot of times we want to build. I chose to stay small enough, long enough, knowing that I would get big enough soon enough. And I had many people tell me over the years that I was doing too many things and I'm really not growing a business. And I made a choice to go super, super deep in the relationships that I have. Also understanding that my focus was on a specific avatar, people that I wasn't chasing the revenues. What I was really focused on was truly an avatar. And that avatar is one that is probably the smallest group in our industry, Dan. I mean, if you look at the general agent and many great coaching companies we respect, they're more for the masses. And you're going to have high churn, and sure, you can get to, dollar volume quicker. But I think that where my focus was clearly the caliber of people I wanted to work with, but also knowing though too that if you are really clear and precise on your avatar and who you want to work with, what's going to happen is your community, I can say me, the community becomes this absolute magnet and does the work for you to the tune that I was able to build my coaching business without a single salesperson. So I think the people around tells everything.
Well, and like as I think also about your brand, I'm picturing, those of you that are listening on the podcast, and John's this guy's ripped. Okay, he's a big buff dude, and John. So it's not too rare that we might find you, with a gym selfie or any of that.
Oh.
And I know there's intention behind it. Why has that continuously been? Because we know you're, just from any photo, we would know that you have a physique. So I don't think you're trying to show us your physique. If you are trying to show us your physique, you just, I don't know, you take a photo at the beach or something. You're showing us the work that goes in. What's behind that? Because I think there's intention behind your gym photos.
I think everyone, first of all,
I'm talking on social media, of course, by the way, folks.
Sure. Yeah. And I think that, one of the things that I know is everyone desires consistency. I think our greatest frustration is our inability. When we sit with ourselves, it's not, people want to get healthier, or they want to sell more homes, or they want to, all these things they want to do. And the one thing that gets in the way is, there's two things that get in the way. Number one is inconsistency. And then the other one is a belief that big results are come from complexity. And so what I wanted to demonstrate over time is just simplicity of doing the same thing over and over and over and over again is where the result lies. Also, to debunk myths. I think that as we go through this life, there's so much programming that we have that says, okay, I'm getting older, and so it's like my life kind of goes like this. I do want to demonstrate that we can continue to live a full life, no matter how old we are, and just being that simple example. Keep it simple, demonstrate consistency, and don't get distracted by things that are outside of you. Because when you do, what I've observed is we get too caught up in the outcome instead of who we're becoming every day. And where I watch people hit a cap or a ceiling is when they're so focused on an outcome or a result or who they're becoming instead of just being. Many people may hit that outcome and put everything into that. Well, it doesn't map to the identity that they had of themselves. Whereas, I look at today, I don't have to do coaching calls anymore. Never again. Why would I wake up at 1:30 or 2 a.m. still, or 3? Well, I get a fudge a little bit because I moved to the Central Time Zone, but why on Tuesdays do I wake up at 3 a.m., right? I don't have to. But what happens is, in the consistency, why I'm consistent, you're just consistent, you're disciplined. No. What I did was I worked on who I had to become instead of the result that I had to get.
No, it makes a lot of sense to me. It's, as I'm thinking about you saying all that and you're talking about consistency, discipline, I get why, I see why you would do that as a coach, because at the end of the day, you're modeling, like, your body can't lie. We can all go on stage. We can all go on stage. We could all go on a podcast. We could go anywhere and say anything, but your body can't lie. So you either, it's the truest demonstration of consistency and discipline, I'd say. And with that, you were talking about distraction just a moment ago and how focused you stayed. So a guy like you and a lot of our listeners, they're all great. They're all business people, aspiring business people, high level, all different stages. But at the end of the day, they're people with opportunities that are already in front of them or that are coming. And you're somebody with consistent opportunities showing up. People want you to promote products, want you to join their affiliate program. They want you to partner with them. So how do you go about, what's your framework, John, or do you have a method? What's your process for determining if you are indeed looking at an opportunity worth pursuing, or if you're looking at a distraction?
Yeah, really good. I think early on in my career, and this is part of what has to happen over time too, is, the ultimate lid to our growth in business is our emotional maturity and emotional intelligence. And so how I would define that I was probably immature as I look at the best financial opportunity. And I can remember our good friend Tim, who was with me for 14 years, he would every time he'd say, "I'm laying down the law, no more partnerships. I'm laying down the law, no more partnerships." And and finally, as things kept coming to me, my way wasn't working. And as I continued to grow and look at the importance of principles and relationships and longevity in those relationships, it's like, you know what? It has to be someone today. My number one rule has to be someone that has been in my world a minimum of 2 years. Um, Interacting with me, working with me, contributing to our environment in some way, shape, or form. That's number one. Number two, and listen, none of us are perfect. We're all on our own journey. We all have our missteps we take. But my number two is someone who is um, a genuine good person, someone who is doing their best to be their best version of self every single day. Someone who can be an example, because really in the grand scheme of things, when 16 years ago when I was on death's doorstep, sure, money has shown up in my life, but the one decision that I made was that, I was going to do my damnedest every day to be a good person, to really serve other people and just try and do the next right thing right, because that's all I had 16 years ago. Thank goodness, because that caused me to was a catalyst to me changing that. So I look at that. The third piece then that I look at is, can it truly impact the lives of other people? And is the person that wants to partner with me in it just to make money or impact the lives of other people? And then number four, at this point in time, it's just kind of where it is. Can I make a lot of money um, without putting a whole bunch of lift and haul in it? And that wasn't always the case early in my career, right? And those are the things that I really look at in the decisioning. Is it very scientific? I don't know. I think it's more artistic than scientific, but I think in the science to it, and as you know too, Dan, in doing this business, in being a leader, but also in being in the coaching and the event space and the product space that you've done really, really well in. I think there's a science to it, but that science has come, or it may seem like it's a gut thing, but I think it comes from a science of us doing it enough times over and over again to decide whether it's going to work or not. Now, there's one other piece, and this was interesting, and I hope people really get this. Listen, I'm not some guy with millions of dollars laying around, and I can go lay on a beach and I fly private and all this crazy stuff. I have plenty. Um, but with that, this isn't that. Oh, I just turned down something. I had an offer brought to me on something that was with a great person, that's really good for the industry, and just right for my avatar. And it was in the last couple weeks. And their offer was fair and it was good, and I would have made multiple seven figures on it. But it was different than an offer someone else made to me that was asking me to do the same thing, which isn't, yeah, just the marketing stuff. And I said, I love you. You're great. This is not to play it and move the number up, but, and this person wouldn't even know, but from my own integrity, I won't sacrifice it. So I think that part there really, in the end, when you make any decision, is across the board. Is it in absolute integrity, and everyone can get inside and see exactly what you're doing. That's the real big final one. And I walked away from something worth multiple millions of dollars a couple weeks ago. Mm.
So what's your appetite then for risk, or your approach to risk? And for context, you're turning 60, is it a year or 2 years from now?
2 years from now, I'll be 60. Yeah. Hmm.
2
Yeah.
years from now. And so that's just for context. What's your appetite for risk? Or how do you
Yes.
approach or think about risk when you're making any kind of investment decision?
What a great question. And I mean, I think as part of this is, our friendship and and me, and maybe it's a tee up, maybe not. I am risk averse. I do not, I, and I think we were backstage talking to Nikki Miller about this at the event. And she'd asked, because we were talking, you may have been around there, or you were there at the event, and it said, "Did something traumatic happen to you
Oh, I remember that
financially?"
now.
You
I
remember
wasn't
that,
thinking
Dan?
I wasn't thinking about that, but yes, she asked you that, didn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I am, and listen, and you've had good input too as a friend. Okay, great. So you're able to do that, but is that a good thing or not a bad thing? I have not been a, here's what I am, the risk I'm willing to take. Try anything and not worry, and I think this is bigger than the money one. I will try anything and make a run at it and fall on my face, and I am not worried about what anyone thinks. And I think that's more valuable well, I'm gonna be partial because it's worked for me. But from a financial standpoint, uh, I'm a little bit, I'm not too risky when it comes to money. I am not, and some may think, "No way," but no, I'm just not. I'm really That's why as I look at the partnerships and how things go too, I'm real diligent in all those type of things, no matter what the upside could be.
And do you think that's tied at all to, did you grow up with money, grew up without money? I was having an interesting
2
conversation
parts.
with Greg Herleen from Horizon Trust, owns a trust company. They manage about $1 billion, where we were comparing a lot of the things we're willing to do, aren't willing to do, that are likes, dislikes today. And we saw just how opposite they were from our upbringing, where just a simple example was, I love to like roll around in dirt and sleep in a tent. But I always grew up kind of going to nice places, nice hotels. He grew up camping in the dirt, and now he just wants to be at the Four Seasons all the time.
Oh, wow.
So, do you see the way you think about risk, your tolerance level for it, all that? Do you see any correlation, positive or negative correlation, like how you might have grown up?
That's good. Not from childhood, at all. Actually, the childhood of I was very outdoors and I loved animals. My favorite toys. Oh my God, I'm on a freaking your podcast. I'm talking about my favorite toys. I can remember when I was 5 and 6 year old. Dan, it was a barn,
Yeah.
and it
Oh,
was
now you own a barn.
right. It was farm animals, and I had little white fences that I would set up. And so, my childhood really inspired me to this point, but I think the conservative nature, though, where I'm not a risk taker, so I wanted to go I chased my childhood. I chased what my dream was because we had 5 acres too when I was in I mean, I think I tell you a story. I ordered 50 when I was 12 years old, I ordered 50 baby chickens in the mail. Didn't tell my parents, and my mom said, I'm down here at the post office and the box is chirping." I said, "Yeah, those are the chickens I ordered." So, but no, mine's going back to, I mean, I'm watching this happen for me right now, but financially and where I'm at, no, the way I behave with money and decisions I make are based on being, beyond broke at, 43, 44. I'm 58, 44 years old. Whoa. Yeah, 40 some years old, mid-40s, 45, 45. Had a bicycle, owned a bicycle, owed the IRS 4.3 million, and, Hilton Honors points. I moved into a hotel where I got breakfast and lunch and started my life over. So,
And I mean, since you go in there, and I wasn't, I didn't know we'd go there, plan on going there, but I think if you're going to go there, our listeners have to know that you owed them that money. You had the opportunity or the very obvious strategy of just saying, look, I'm going bankrupt, or I'm not going to pay, or I'm going to cut a deal, or I'm going to negotiate it. You chose to do what few would do. You owed how much? 4 point what?
4.3,
And you paid them every dime.
paid it all.
Why'd you do that? You were riding a
So I'm
bicycle. You
uh,
paid them every dime of the 4.3. I know there's something our audience can take with them from that.
sure. My brother who, you got to meet, you got to hang out with him.
Yeah.
Uh, bless our mom's heart. He's a couple years longer sobriety than me. But he pulled me aside, and I had been sober for about a year and a half, and he said, "This is great. This is the longest you've stayed sober." Because my 21st birthday was in rehab. My last one was at 41. Um, and I was turning into month 19th, with the longest ever. And I said, "Well, I'm a fraud." And he says, "What?" I said, "Well, I'm clean, but I'm not clean." I said, "I haven't filed my taxes in years." And, "Well, you're going to file them." So I filed them. Fast forward, got to what the debt amount was. And I said, "I'm BKing out, negotiating out." He says, "No, you're not." He said, "For the first time in your life, you're going to make good principle-based, moral-based decisions. If someone owed you 4.3 million, would you pay them? Would you want them to pay you back?" I said, "Yeah, but that's the IRS." He says, "No, no, no, no. It doesn't work that way." He said, "This decision is a matter of life and death for you, because if you have a compromise inside in your principles, I don't care how deep it is, you can feel you got over." He said, "Who we are and what we do is that conflict is going to manifest itself, and you will drink again. If you drink again, you're dead." He said, I said, "I'm going to eat top ramen forever." He said, "You'll be eating." And he said, "But I promise you this, just trust me." He said, you do the right thing. You make the right personal based decisions." He said, "You will have a life beyond your wildest of dreams." Exactly what he said to me. And it was interesting, because the theme for me, Dan, and it's still the theme for all of us as we go through things in life. I think it's used loosely. I remember when I came out of rehab and I didn't have any money, and I was running out of my Hilton Honors points, and I said, "Hey, listen, I'm back to business. I'm making money, and can I borrow 2,000? There's an apartment. There's $1,000 deposit and $1,000 rent." And he said, "No." He said, "No, I'm not helping you. You can figure it out." He says, "But that Rolex," I think it was the last thing I owned. "That Rolex you own," he said, let's see if you really surrendered, and the things that you thought made you cool, matter." He says, "You give me that for 2,000. You're not hawking it. I get it for 2,000. I know it's worth more." And I handed it over to him. I said, "That's it." So I think that surrender always shows up. And so when I surrendered, then got into that apartment, and then, made sure it was across the street from the gym so I could ride my bike there. So then what happened, Dan, is those things showed up in life when that money thing showed up. And he brought me back to that conversation. He said, "So are you going to surrender, or are you going to resist?" And I will tell you, as strong-minded as I am, my greatest power is when I surrender.
Wow, that's really, really powerful. I'm just thinking right now, as you're going through that some of our audience, you might be thinking, hold on, is this a business podcast?
Yeah, right.
Why are we so much in the personal? Because, folks, he's built a multi-million-dollar net worth. He has gone through, he's built several different businesses across several different industries. Why? It's all because of the personal development that's been made. And something I've learned from Jon all along the way is that you are not going to grow past your level of personal development. And I've seen that be true time and time and time again. And some people might appear that they are, but there is eventually something that's going to make them come on back. And you yourself, you might have experienced where there is something that's held you back, and it's often found in your personal life. And so there's so much work that can be done. Look, and I'm going to ask Jon, I'd love to ask you about scaling a business, and I'm going to do so in just a moment, but there is so much business growth already within what's inside of you if you just develop you that much further. And it's just interesting because I watch these business leaders hire Jon for consulting, or to work with him on a business or whatever it might be. And so much of the conversation, so much of the issue they were chasing down, it's solved, yet they're still coaching with him a year, 2 years later. Why? Because so much more growth is in your personal development than in the next, strategy on scaling. Having said that, when it does come to scale, Jon, what do you think is what do you think most business people, entrepreneurs, aspiring business owners, what do you think is really missing for them when it comes to gaining any kind of true traction or scale in their business, that maybe they're just looking past something that's clear and obvious? Maybe, what is it? Is it complexity? Without me filling in the gaps here. What do you
Sure.
think is really getting in the way of, or potentially could be getting in the way of our listeners who are trying to grow their business but feel stuck or overwhelmed, or just are keep hitting the same plateau and the same sales milestone, which could be a very big milestone. They just keep hitting it year after year without being able to exceed it.
Yeah, I started writing here. I said number one, they do it too early. They do it way too early. It's kind of like what I
What,
did.
what does that mean? Meaning what?
So, I could have, and many people ask me this. I remember here I am coaching Adam Contos, right? CEO of Remax Worldwide. This is my client, okay? And he's sitting down with me years ago. He says, "You don't have a business. You're doing too much. Your coaching client's telling you how to run your business." And I'm like, "No, you just can't. That's not a business." And I was doing 100 coaching calls. There's a screenshot I put up on Facebook numerous times, a real email, 114 coaching calls in 1 week. Um, and I think what people do is they do it too early. I think the second part is so too early, meaning that they don't have, they haven't mastered what they do. They get so caught up in the sexiness of growing something big. And then they also get caught up in the belief, and actually this is their vision, which is the wrong vision. I'm going to build a business so I can work less. That right there is the kiss of death. That's the biggest myth right there. So it's too early. Their mindset going into it. I think the third thing is they don't check in with themselves. And I ask my clients this. So let me ask you this: how do you perform at the highest level? With a little bit of money in the bank and you're nervous, do you perform better? In other words, if you've got money in the bank, are you lazy? And I've got clients say, "Oh man, I can't have money in the bank." So knowing which person you are, right? I mean, which person are you? So it's a lot of the psyche to it, but it is getting yourself to the point where you are beyond capacity and you're just overflowing before you take and say, okay, let's fill this other cup. And that other cup is an assistant, or that other cup is a buyer's agent, or that other cup is another coach that's working with you. Because I believe that too many people, uh, they they try to scale before they've mastered it, and then they don't really have the true skills to transfer to the people they lead. That's number one. Number two, what they do then, the next mistake that they make is they don't develop their leadership. What they do is they bring someone on based on a resume and they immediately put them, they onboard them, they put them to work. But think about this, and I think basically most of our audience is our peers. I love this question in 90 days, Dan, when a COO or an operations person or a marketing person or a sales manager doesn't work out. 90 days, they're not working out. I said, oh, great. So you indoctrinated on board and did ongoing training with them at the same level you did for an agent where 80% of them fail anyways? They do not develop. I interviewed Emily with Lori Reeder's team today, and she said this exact conversation. Tell her at first 90 days. She said, like, Camilla spent 5 hours a day with me from a big operation like yours, away from, it's like Laura taking 5 hours a day and went all in with me for 30 days, knowing she was sacrificing the short term in the business for the long term. So they don't develop their leaders. The next piece, then when they do, say they do develop them, they don't trust them. They don't trust them. And if there is any element where there is a lack of trust, that person, I mean, everything's about the people that you're around, right? Or that you surround yourself with. They don't trust them. Um, and I think that those are, and the final one is they wing it. The one thing I've watched you since I've known you is it doesn't matter at what level your business is, whether when we met 5, 6 years ago or today, you're always curious. I think that people try and figure it out on their own, and they're not humble enough to go find someone who has made the mistake before them. I mean, it's easy for us to say, oh yeah, we see it all the time. Dan, I mean, there's only a fraction of people that show up in the rooms over and over again. So I think there is that. Here's another one that shows up: abandonment. We all have abandonment issues, whether it was a girlfriend, parent. That one traumatizes people. And I've watched people stop in their tracks and will not, because they cannot emotionally, and then in turn physically handle it. So I think those are the biggest reasons that I see that stand out the most to me, and the personal development one.
Let's revisit. You said something really interesting to me.
Mm.
Um, that one of the biggest mistakes that's made really early on when you're just even deciding to do a business is that you want to build a business so that you could eventually work less. And you say that's a huge mistake. I'd really like to go deeper there. Can unpack that for us if you don't mind.
Right. And one I'd left out, because then in turn what happens is leaders move so far away from they move too far away from the business, and what happens is they don't even know what is going on in the business. I mean, in its simplest of terms, and if you take a look at right now, the more I talk to people, it is you've got to stay in your core competency. Elon Musk slept in the plant in Reno. He slept in the plant. Okay. And so it is you've got to have, and we were given this equation. You and I were actually in the room 18 months ago in Scottsdale when Dean and Brendan said 60% of your schedule. I remember looking over you going, I'm right. All right, awesome. Not that I was right, but it's I know that I've always had people give me that pushback of, oh, you're still too in it. 60% of your time in the business needs to be spent in your core competency.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and
And
I was guilty of saying that to you too.
yeah, yeah. So, is there a time and a place where you move it? I mean, Parker right now, Parker's doing remarkable things. And we were on a call 3 or 4 weeks ago, and, he's looking at scaling, right? And I said, what do you do best? He says, recruiting. I said, you're the recruiter, period. You're not leaving it. So, when you step out of what your number one, there's many things you do as you're building a business, but the minute that you step away from, because you want to work less, from the thing you do that moves the needle the most, you're in trouble.
When you're talking about somebody like Elon Musk sleeping sleeping at the plant, it just makes me want think about when you make that transition home from a hard day at work, and you might have I know you have a home office, but either way, like that's kind of like the office in your cave, so to speak, to and
Right.
you're solving problems and you're slaying dragons and you're fighting the good fight all day long. What's that transition like to then enter the house in the way in which you want to show up for your personal life, for home, for the spouse, the kids, etc. What is there anything you go through to jump into home, John, or do you just jump off your last meeting and boom, walk right in? That might be the case. I don't
Yeah.
know.
No, most times it's interesting in the morning. People ask about the morning routine. Go pee, take a shower, drink coffee, go to work. Right. I mean, that's that. But typically, the after work is typically the gym, and my wife is really wonderful. Um, the first thing out of her mouth is, and she has never once said to me, unless my wife will be real clear with me, we know that, good friend of yours. She's never said to me, "Oh, well, you don't need to go to the gym." It's having a partner that knows. So number one, it is go, unless it's just bananas, I'm dead. But typically it's, hey, it's getting to the gym, and that breaks. That's my great break. And then I come back in when I come back home, and the nice thing that we love talking shop. That's what's neat. Bouncing things off. I mean, certainly we'll talk shop, but finding out what the girls are doing in their life, and then heading out to the farm. So that's how it goes with me. But here's what I would say. I'm going to be honest with everyone. When I'm working, I think about work. When I'm not working, I think about work. I love working. I really, really do. Can I be better with my attention in things? Yeah, yeah, yes, I can. But I don't know. What I would say to folks is, and this isn't maybe the best motivational personal development type speech, but here's what I would say. Um, I didn't come to this planet, and I've learned it as I've gotten older. I mean, to love my wife and my family, and I mean, nothing gives me more joy than her happiness. And especially as I get older, I'm really seeing that that's, oh, okay. This all makes sense because it's how it's been in my work, too. But we all came here to do what makes us happy. And I think too many of us, end up in a situation where we're doing things that don't. Work makes me really happy. Work makes me feel like I'm contributing to mankind. Um, and so, I
I think
deal with
that's
that.
refreshing for a lot of people to hear. I mean, I hear that and I'm like, all right, good. Because I like working too. I like thinking about work. I like thinking about what I'm going to do, how I'm going to grow. But the world will try to make you feel bad about it, won't it?
It will. And I think the
What do
important
you
thing
think
is
that's behind that? Is that the
I think
media,
it's
built-in mediocrity into the
programming.
system?
I think it's
Yeah.
yeah, you've always got the crabs in the bucket, we're always gonna have that. Um, I think it's that, those who think that way are the few. They are, and so naturally when you're the few, and yet what's interesting is, I think the few are really. I mean, listen, I wanna meet everyone where they're at, but I want everyone to have the best life they possibly can, right? I mean, I wanna bring as many people along, and yet at the same time, if someone's, they don't wanna go that way, that's cool, that's you, but I think it's just a lot of it's projection. I think a lot of it is like, what's the truth? I mean, what's the truth? What's right or wrong? What's right as long as a am I does it hurt you? Does it hurt someone? And if it impacts my family, that's my business to work with, right? It's almost like we're on this planet and so many people are trying to live this performance. Well, I mean, whether you're spiritual or not, or religious or not, whatever, it's between you and what's important to you. I mean, that's really and I think with that, that's why so many people aren't happy. They're not living their truth. They're not living their truth. And listen, I think it's important though you have someone too. I mean, listen, my wife won't rein me in, but
Oh yeah.
uh, so
Oh, well, this is man, it's been really, really special. Um, I really appreciate jumping into a lot of that and just letting us see inside and just the things that are, the way you're wired and think about things. I think he's just full of a lot of wisdom. I'll finish off with a question that I think, for this one's just for the people that know you who think, what's John, does he turn it off ever? What does a typical Sunday look like? And Sunday's just symbolic of like the
yeah,
chill day.
yeah.
Do you know how to,
This is good. It goes from excitement, um, and then excitement, relaxation, and depression. And so I'll tell you, like this is my right now
okay.
Sunday because I wake up and now with our life, we wake up at the farm every Sunday. Okay. So it's just I love being there. It's great and I love work. And so my mind's really clear. I've gotten kind of a reprieve from work, whereas the intensity of what it is in the week. And so I'm starting to think I can be creative and and so that's exciting. And then I go out with my wife and we'll feed the horses and we every day just look out in our little farm. It's a big deal to us. You just go, can you believe this? I mean, just gratitude. Then about noon, depression hits because we have to go back to, we've got a city life, So, but that's all part of the equation. You know what I mean? I mean, that's what it looks like.
John,
Downtime downtime though, there are times where I will just shut down, but I listen to myself, right?
Mm.
There are times where I'll just say, and it's never planned actually. It shows up, and I have no problem just turning it off. I'd say this: if you want to go full tilt, be sure that you listen to yourself though too.
Really good advice. Hey man, thank you for opening up with us here, and congrats on all of the just ongoing success. It's really, really inspiring for a lot of people. I'm really excited about people outside of the real estate space because you've kind of been in that vertical, even though you've helped people in all kinds of other businesses out there. But and by the way, he runs an amazing wellness business too. So if you're want to just improve that side of you, if you know that that's the biggest improvement you need, by all means, send me a message. I'll get you guys connected. But It's just inspiring to see that happen. I appreciate you coming on and just being a friend, supporter. And I made a note. One of the notes, I made many notes over the course of this, but one of the notes I made, it literally says it right there. It says, go to the farm. So I think I need some farm time. I'll connect with you offline, see if we can make that happen.
That'd be
John, thank
awesome.
you very much. That's Jon Cheplak, everybody. Go look him up on social. You'll find him. You'll see a ton of free content he puts out there. I mean, literally, the very same things that he's got people paying him all kinds of money for the one-on-one experience, which of course is a totally different level of access, and that's awesome if you're the type of person who likes to go all in. But if you just want exposure to all of his philosophy, business strategies, etc., go find him on social. It's Jon Cheplak, and this is Masters of Business. We'll hit you on the next one.